Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Spiritual Psychic TV and welcome to Being Spiritual with me, your host, Ashley Robinson. It's wonderful to be back this evening, broadcasting out across YouTube and Facebook with our spiritual philosophy show, our fortnightly show where you get to ask Ash anything. We pick a couple of spiritual subjects and we have a bit of an interactive chat with it. So if you are joining Spiritual Psychic TV for the first time, do give us a special hello. Tell us where you're watching the show from. If you've come back again, welcome back, friends. Let us know where you're watching the show from tonight. But you've got an opportunity, folks, to ask me absolutely anything spiritual related this evening. And tonight's subject is all about destiny. We're going to be talking about destiny versus free will. We're going to be talking about the concept of karma and reincarnation and choice of experience. So get your questions ready on that or absolutely anything. And I'd very much like to do some hellos and some welcomes. If you're on YouTube and you want to participate, use the live chat function. Make sure you've logged in. YouTube accounts are free, folks, and give it a good share across all of your social media channels. On Facebook, you can show us the love by giving us the thumbs up, the hearts, and the cares. Let us know that you have any problems on that live chat. Make sure you're watching the live video stream and share it, folks. Share this show. Let people know you're watching it. They can watch it on playback if not in live. So let's do a couple of hellos and welcomes and say hello to the good people watching the show tonight. And a special hello to all of my friends, new and in past, from the Spiritual and Psychic Weekend. So Spiritual Psychic TV and Women of Spiritualist Church had a wonderful weekend, folks, and in Bournemouth. This time last week, everyone was arriving and checking in for our Spiritual and Psychic Weekend. There's old Jim. Hello, Jim. Jim was certainly there. Over 100 spiritual people. And the strapline, Spiritual Psychic TV, folks. Brownie points if anyone remembers what it says. Hiya, Claire Colbeck. Bringing spiritual people together. And that's exactly what we did. We brought people together from all over the country. In fact, some had come from abroad to get there. Hello, Mary Dixie, another person that was with us over that weekend. And what a wonderful weekend we had, folks. If you were there, do mention in the chat what you thought of the weekend. The lovely Terry Wall, first opportunity to meet you, and after 2 years of seeing you and all the hard work you do behind scenes, as was Alison Barton. Good evening to you, Alison. Great to meet so many people in the flesh after having such a virtual audience. Mr. Phil Shaw, another spirit seeker from the weekend in Bournemouth, my good friend at Women of Spiritualist Church, and Sally Worker, hello to you. Hope my mum's okay. Yeah, she's doing well. Thank you, Sally. Hope you're all doing well. I think we'll make sure we finish the show tonight by sending that love, light, and healing to absolutely everybody that needs it. Natalie Bentley, good evening to you. What a wondrous job we did of raising money for charity, folks, over that weekend. Dawn Johnson would love to see a spirit message. We're not doing clairvoyance or mediumship tonight, Dawn. That'll be tomorrow night from 8 o'clock. But tonight, it's all about philosophy. So ask us your questions. Hi there, Joy. I was just saying about charity and service. So we raised over £600 over the weekend for free good charity causes. Julie Caswell, good evening to you too. Wonderful to be amongst like-minded people. Laura joins us on the show tonight on Facebook from New Zealand. I think it's morning where you are, Laura. Good morning to you. And good afternoon from Phoenix, Arizona. Good afternoon, Amy. Hi from South Africa. And have a general reading. I say, Carolyn, we're not doing mediumship tonight, but we will be talking a little bit about philosophy. Check out tomorrow night from 8 o'clock. Wendy Gawley, hi. How are you doing, Wendy? Karen, hello from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, Canada. Good to see you all. Hi there, Karen. Lovely to have you here. A good international audience tonight. Amy Curtis, good evening to you. Catherine, would love anything from anyone. We'll have my love and light tonight. Kelly McKeaton, good evening to you. Jane watching from Wales. Hiya, Jane. Julie Pratt from Sutton. That's been the closest person to me so far. Hey, Julie. Amanda Wheatley, hello. Amy Curtis is watching from Derbyshire. Hi, Amy. Lovely Stace Shaw. Hi, Stace. Hi, Kimberly. Sorry, I got a bit of a dry throat tonight, folks. Stephen, hello from Ireland. Christine Davis. Hi, Christine. Hi, Jeanette. Anne McLaren, good evening to you. think I've caught up with most of you. If I haven't specifically mentioned your name, hello. And tonight we're going to be talking about spiritualist philosophy. Hi, Tina Place. We're going to be talking about destiny in particular. Wendy says it's the first time watching. Hiya, Wendy. Be really interested in your own thoughts, folks, of destiny versus free will. Pamela from Lincolnshire. Hiya, Pamela. And we'll talk a little bit about what it is we believe. So this is something that's always fascinated me, the concept of destiny and exactly what is destiny. Steve Well, vocalist, was fantastic to meet you all. Thanks for making me so welcome. Yeah, Steve Well, amazing entertainer that played us out on Sunday night at the Spirit Seeker weekend. Hi, Steve. Thanks for checking out the show tonight. Thanks for entertaining all those spiritualists down in Bournemouth over the weekend. You're an amazing entertainer. And yes, destiny. So first of all, folks, what do you think destiny is? Is destiny where you're always meant to finish? Hi there, Irma from Shropshire. Is destiny where we always finish regardless? Matty from Middlesbrough. Hi, Matty. Is destiny where we're meant to end up? Donna Zimmerman from Pennsylvania. Hi, Donna. Is destiny something that will always happen regardless? Hi, Jamie from YouTube. Hello all. Is destiny something which can be influenced? Hi there from South Dakota, USA. Would love a message. Hi, Paula. Berkshire. Hi, Kerry Smith. Welcome to the show tonight. So for me, destiny is, for want of a better words, like a spiritual finish line, utopia, what we're heading to, the sort of the purpose and meaning of this life, of this experience for us. Destiny is that finish line. It's the end of experience in this life. And I've always wondered if destiny is something that we choose. Destination, the general direction of that journey, is of course influenced by the physical, psychological, political circumstances of the world we're in. So is there an element of us choosing that experience to influence that destiny? Does free will, my free will and the free will of everyone around me, have an impact on my destiny? Is my destiny quite a big headline and big picture situation, or is there lots of detail? For me, the concept of incarnation is that we have an opportunity when we leave heaven to come here for this experience in this incarnation, to perhaps choose where we may be born and which family we may be born to. And to a certain extent, it's perhaps like going to Blockbuster Video. And sorry if I've got lots of younger viewers on tonight. I don't know what Blockbuster Video was, but before streaming and Netflix and everything else, Blockbuster was how we rented our films and our DVDs and everything else in between. For the really young audience, you have to Google how to play a VHS tape. But in heaven, then you get a Blockbuster Video, you choose the life of Ashley Robinson, you think, yeah, that looks quite good. You look at the back, you look at the synopsis, and you think, that looks quite good. Yeah, parents, Ray and Jackie, okay, born up South London, oh, into a family of spiritualists, that's quite good. Because for me, that concept of incarnation suggests there was a reincarnation. There were previous incarnations. I mean, obviously all need to start one, but the whole purpose of life and experience for me is about evolution, about experiencing things in the 3D body that you can only experience in the human 3D body, the human existence. But of course, my memory is wiped. I arrive on Earth as the new human being, Ashley Robinson, and I have absolutely no memory of what it was like, really. No, certainly no conscious memory of what it was like to be in heaven. I don't remember the synopsis of that video. And actually, I have no recollection of previous lives. I might have to wait until some sort of deep meditation or past life regression to bring up those things. So knowing that in the human existence, all of those things are taken away from me, what is the point of destiny? What is the point of having a destination to go to? Is it about maximizing the opportunity of the experiences, about maximizing the opportunity to experience as many things as you're hoping to experience in that life? So really interested to get your thoughts, folks. I'm going to do a little bit of reading from one of my spiritual philosophers tonight, I think Zodiac probably, and I'm going to give you some of my opinions. I'm going to take your thoughts on this as well, and we'll ask ourselves a couple of questions. And I want to finish before I just take a couple of comments that have come in. There's one there from Nicola, which I'll read in a minute, about free will, because I do believe that there is this idea of a utopia finish line that we're all heading towards, and a lot of the big things that are meant to happen in our life, in our experience, will happen. And say, for example, that I am meant to finish my human being experience aged 100 years. If I decide, and it's my choice, to take up a hobby like jumping off cliffs without a parachute, perhaps I am reducing the likelihood of making it to the grand old age of 100. Perhaps my free will end up finishing much earlier than that. In which case, was that always my destiny? How much of my free will is really my free will? How much of my free will is pre-programmed by my destiny, influenced by my guide, my principal guide, who has dedicated my entire earthly experience? They've dedicated their spirit life to service for me, to give service back to me, to keep me on the straight and narrow path towards utopia. For they are still in a place, let's call it heaven, where they know what utopia should look like and could look like for me. So there's a couple of the big points I've put out there. Nicola Humphrey says, I think it's like the film Sliding Doors. One small thing can affect it, but you always end up where you're meant to be. Nicola, I think you're probably right. And most of the people I've asked this question about destiny is that you can kind of have lots of different experiences along the way. But ultimately, if your life was a project and you were to go from A to Z, the B, C's, D's, E's, and F's right through the alphabet may be influenced slightly, but the A to Z, the start and finish of the project, and most of the milestones will be adhered to in the project that is Ashley Robinson. There is an element of destiny at play the entire time. Pamela says she thinks that destiny is where you end up at the end of your life. Yeah, because if destiny is an absolute, if it's one of the spiritual laws, one of the laws of spiritual life, then of course, however you finish this experience, you have to say that that was destiny. Because if destiny is pre-programmed, then all of the things in between were meant to happen. Wendy says, I think our free will means we can change our destiny. And Wendy, I think it's a really good point. And I want to sort of get into a little bit of that today, because if our destiny was absolutely written, let's just take the life of my nanny Hazel, who now lives back in heaven. If she was always meant to live in the time she did, with the people she did, and was to be born on the day and the time to her family, to finish her experience in the way she did, to have meet all the people she did, to have had the children she had, to have all the grandchildren. If all of that was absolutely meant to be, it suggests that her own decisions, her own free will, when to cross the road, when to get on that bus, if and when to have tolerated my granddad Dell for as long as she did, to have had children and had that happily life, that actually free will wasn't really at play. It was the smaller decisions where free will was influenced. Laura says, this topic sounds awesome. I've been thinking a lot about my own destiny lately. After a long time of my own learning, a big change in the last 24 years. I was wondering if there was any guidance for me today. Laura, I'm not doing specific one-to-one guidance today, but hopefully you'll get something from the general subject. Yeah. And for me, this element of destiny, I do think it is like a piece of elastic. So I've spoke before, there's an entire show dedicated to reincarnation. There's another one dedicated to guides and principal guides. And there is another one that talks about karma. So if we overlay all of these things in this life, in this experience, we enter that experience at exactly the right place we're meant to. Based on my learning and assumption that this is a period of evolution, when our soul occupies the body and the vessel for this life and this experience, when it does that, it does it at a time to a family, not by chance, but by destiny. So taking my own life, all of that was meant to be. There I am up in heaven, choosing to either come back and spend time with my family, when I call mum and dad, Ray and Jackie Robinson. But all of that bit was meant to be, because I knew that the likelihood of me experiencing certain things as part of my destiny was absolutely meant to be. Now, all of the free will decisions I make along the way, this is where I want to introduce the piece of elastic. So we go back to that concept of the finish line, end of experience for Ashley Robinson, and a piece of elastic at that finish line that gets hold of me like an umbilical cord at the point of conception. And this piece of elastic is flexible. I can zig, I can zag, I can dart off to the left. I see things that are shiny and I can go off that way. But ultimately, that piece of elastic is my spiritual umbilical cord, constantly pulling me towards my destiny, towards my finish line, my utopia. It's not doing it with great demand and great speed. I've got time and my own free will along the ways to learn lessons, to kiss the girl on the dance floor back in Sutton High Street in Zoots as a teenager, or not kiss the girl on the dance floor. I've got the opportunity to drink that last beer and throw up or not drink it. All of those free will decisions, part of that experience, not necessarily part of the destiny. But each time I make a decision based on my own free will, the free will of others influencing me, that takes me away, is a step away from my destiny, that is perhaps where the pull of the elastic just gives me a little tug and says, excuse me, you're going the wrong way. And that little bit of elastic pulling you back. And people throughout their life talk about, don't they, direction, being steered, being pulled towards something. There was something about the look in the eyes of their partner when they met across the dance floor. In my case, you always on Sutton High Street back in the late 90s. All of those things, destiny perhaps being more vivid as a memory. And our principal guide, they're chatting away to us from the moment of conception on their mobile phone. We might spend our entire lives without the knowledge that there is even a phone to our guide. But of course, perhaps if we have evolved and we start to have many life experiences, many incarnations, our knowledge of that phone, that method of communication back to the guides, becomes so strong that even with a wiped memory, we become more aware about it. We know how to use it. Perhaps the lives we start to choose change too. We choose a life where we're more likely to be aware of that phone, where the encouragement to use that phone exists. And I think that all of those things are absolutely possible. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about spiritualists and spiritualism and how people would consider that sort of side of spiritual involvement. But Tina Place has just said, I truly believe we have a contract that we have decided on before being born, and our destiny is to finish our contract the happiest we can by being and knowing we have done everything we set out to do. Tina, that is a beautiful way of putting it, and I don't disagree. In fact, we did a show where we spoke about soul contracts and how other people that we incarnate with could be part of that contract. So what do other people think about that idea of contracts and soul contracts? We could talk a little bit more about that. So going back to this point then that I just made about spiritual destiny and my guides, I want to just reintroduce that new human being again, Newman. If your first experience as a human being on planet Earth was to be something, are you going to go into Blockbuster and choose the most difficult experience? Are you going to choose the most exciting? Are you going to choose the experience where food is plentiful, where love is unconditional? Or are you going to choose the life of an orphan, the life of a solo parenting family, life of a family without any love that's unconditional or money? I've always had it implied to me by people that are alive and now spirit and my guides that our first few experiences as human being, we tend to be drawn to the things that look like fun, the things that we're going to have, the experiences we're most likely to have doing things which are fun with people who are fun. And actually, let's assume that we do that once with all the different properties that make us a human. Do it once as a woman, fantastic. Now I'm going to do it as a bloke, great. Now I'm going to do it on the other side of the planet. Now I'm going to do it with slightly warmer. Now I'm going to do it slightly colder. Now I'm going to do that again as a man and a woman. Now I'm going to do that with slightly less money because I didn't need that much money. And maybe you get to the point now you're in, dozens of lives or even hundreds of lives or perhaps even thousands of lives. And you think each time I've done those easy lives with all that money and all those servants, I start to realize how I treated those servants, how I treated my parents, how I didn't have as much consideration. You start to think about what you want to experience in the next life. So you've spent the first few lives in being served, and then you decide to, I'm going to go back and I'm going to serve. I'm going to see what it feels like to be on that experience. So this idea of your destiny, perhaps you only get to review it when you go back to Blockbuster, which is located in heaven, and you watch back your life, perhaps your detriment of your characters, all the positive things. How well did I adhere to the contract? Did I accomplish everything on there that I set out to do? Did I meet the person that I wanted to meet, the people in heaven who I'd agreed to meet? Did we fall in love again? Did my parents love me unconditionally? Great, I'm going to come back and I'll be their parents and I'll love them unconditionally. Now we're aware of parents that don't love unconditionally. Perhaps we should experience that. So all of this, for me, starts to play with the idea that destiny is the next chapter, the next sequel in that video, in that life of that experience. Natalie says, if you don't have free will, then how would we learn the lessons we're meant to learn? Absolutely, Natalie. I think a good part of the reason we have no memory of previous lives, we have no obvious contract, is for exactly that reason. I'm going to take some water, folks. I want to finish answering your question, Natalie, by saying that I do believe that almost everything we experience in our lives was meant to be. And I'm going to caveat that. First thing is, I've copped out by saying almost everything. That's because as a human being, I'm still struggling to understand some of the things that I've been told from spirit. Almost everything, because I feel like I've got a working theory. But every now and then, a spanner is thrown in the works that my human mind is just incapable of contemplating. The second thing is about everything meant to be. So if someone really horrible does something really horrible to us, can I say, as Ashley Robinson, the human being, that was meant to be? That murder, it was meant to be. I can't say it as Ashley Robinson. This is why I say almost everything. In heaven, with the benefits of having lived those lives and being judged by our higher self, something greater than perhaps the soul of the personality we've just lived. There's this element of what did we learn from that? Was it destiny? This is where I personally sort of struggle with some of the bits that I've been told. I'm giving you the message I've been told. And the pretty much consistent message I get from the spirit world is everything will play out as it is meant to be. The great spirit is experiencing things through you. You are the great spirit. The great spirit is you, and everything you experience was meant to be. Everything you didn't experience was meant to be. And the idea that what happened, and that free will was a major influence over that. In which case you have to say, well, if it was always meant to be, then that was my destiny. And then that's where the human being and Ash Robinson would go, well, hang on. Why did I choose a life that was looking absolutely fantastic, but there's all these expectations of happiness and unconditional love, only for some lunatic to come along and murder me halfway through my life experience? I suppose the spiritual answer would be something like, but you wasn't. The expectations, all of that living in the moment, that was the experience. The destiny was that you'd experienced and perhaps learnt the lessons you were going to learn in that life. That's why it was end of experience. And this is at the point I'm going to turn to Zodiac. And no, it's not. I'm not going to turn to Zodiac. Zodiac is a wonderful man, but I'm having a conflab of my guides at the moment, and they've said that the stuff I was going to read from Zodiac is no longer relevant and I'm going to be directed more towards silver birch. Okay, folks. So I'm getting a bit of a live steer from the guide team tonight. Julie Caswell says, I think it's like being dealt a hand of cards at birth. It's up to you how to play your hand in life, but you only have that hand you're dealt with to plan this life. Yeah. And that goes back to that point, Julie, that on that life experience in pursuit of happiness and utopia, with the point of elastic bringing you there, that you are well trained, equipped, and guided. You have everything you need to get there. Stace says she's not sure she believes in the contract things. There's no way I'd agree to some of the horrible things I've had to go through. Absolutely, Stace. And that's what a human being in me goes, I don't understand that. I don't understand child cancer. Why would there be a child cancer contract? Who in their right mind would take that off? But I don't think as a human being I'm meant to necessarily understand, Stace. Leslie Morton says, before my dad died, I was called to the hospital as I was told he wouldn't make the night. He didn't pass, but told me the next day that the nurses had shown him a video of all the horrible things he had done in his life. I thought it was amazing. He lived for another month. Thank you for sharing that, Leslie. Right. I'm going to go to Silver Birch, actually. I'm going to read something from Silver Birch. Heidi Spicer, hope you're doing well, my friend. I believe we're here until we accomplish a particular thing. I don't believe we necessarily agree to all the petty little things. I think sometimes they're lessons to be learned. Absolutely. Life is all about learning and experiences. I agree with that previous comment about doing things that make us happy with people that make us happy, doing things we love with people that make us love. Absolutely. Wendy says, I think we challenge ourselves as we go through our different lives. When we've learned some lessons, we choose more difficult ones. Wendy, I absolutely agree. And, perhaps because of my limited understanding, it shows how far or how, shallow I am into that start of that journey, of that evolution of that understanding. Right. So I'm going to go to Silver Birch. Silver Birch was a wonderful guide and spiritual philosopher. And he was asked a question while in trance through his medium about destiny. And the question was, to what extent does destiny play its part in man's earth life? Could you describe destiny for us, Silver Birch? Is it an outside force of your own choice? And if you accept reincarnation, can you say why and what purpose it serves? So this was the answer from Silver Birch, which I do agree with and love. Silver Birch says it could be both. An outside force helped you to make the choice. You can have free will and destiny all at the same time. If you are content to accept that earthly life is the sum total of physical existence, then so be it. But it is conceivable that the spirit which inhabits your present earthly body has existed before, with not necessarily the fascia of spirit. It could be that you are a fragment of a very large diamond, with each facet incarnated at differing ethos to make the contribution to the whole. So I really like that from Silver Birch, that talks about the fact that free will and destiny can absolutely exist at the same time. And perhaps if we avoid the path of, we choose a path of least resistance, that is the elastic pulling us towards the utopia. We just go with the flow in pursuit of happiness, experiencing everything along the way to complete that contract, to complete that list of tick box tasks we said we were going to do. Equally, we can get to a point that we go wandering. We're distracted by the shiny things and other things that are fun, and perhaps we don't accomplish all of the things we set out to do. Perhaps we enjoy it so much we go back and do it again. So although this show is about destiny this evening, I think that it overlays so nicely with previous conversations we've had about guides, and our principal guide in particular. It overlays that concept of reincarnation, that concept of karma. Because if you talk about the, I'm trying to think of a better word for negative, but if you talk about things that you're not so happy about, so there are obvious things which are done out of unconditional love that are generally regarded as positive and the right things to do. And then there'll be things that were perhaps selfish, naughty, evil, negative. For me, my understanding of the spirit realms, the afterlife, is that nothing negative can continue to progress. Now, I also believe there is only one afterlife, the life after the change that our body goes through called death. But in that afterlife, there are many dimensions or realms or spheres or levels, houses within mansions, whatever you want to call it. And that actually you're unable to progress after the incarnation experience you've had with anything negative. And for me, it's almost like karmatic debt. It's about that personal responsibility for every deed, for every action, for every cause and effect. And therefore, the only way to progress may be to go back and incarnate, to work off some of that karmatic debt. And it goes back to that point made by a friend a moment ago about choosing more difficult or more challenging experiences, perhaps just out of curiosity, perhaps by working off some of that karmatic debt. Joanne Lewis says, I believe we have lessons, challenges, some leftover karma, which gives us wisdom to help others on their pathway. Yeah, absolutely, Joanne. Very well put. I'm just going to take some more water, folks. Nicola Humphreys, you say, do you think other people can change your own personal destiny by their actions, or that it was always meant to happen? I've been reading a lot about how people's gut feeling have helped them avoid death or serious injury. Good question, Nicola. And I'm going to answer it in two ways. One is that whatever happens, you could argue because you weren't aware of your destiny, that it was actually always your destiny to at some point realize your true destiny and therefore fulfill that. Equally, I think there's this thing of understanding your destiny. So be interested to know if there's anyone watching tonight. Was anyone born with the absolute knowledge of that soul contract, of that contract of experience, of knowing the things that you were going to accomplish, achieve, and experience in this life? Was anyone absolutely clear on their destiny? Richard said he refused to sign his contract. If any of you watching have got that absolute knowledge, I'd be quite interested, because I've never met anyone that talks about their own life with that absolute certainty. Now, I've met lots of people that talk about the certainty that they're on a path which is taking them towards their destiny, and therefore they're just going with the flow. They're going, going along for the ride. And I think that's slightly different. We interviewed the lovely Kate May on this show one night, fantastic astrologist and tarot card reader. And she spoke about, all those little things in life that you do have influence on. But ultimately, if you're meant to meet person A and marry them and live happily ever after with them, or not happily ever after, that ultimately those big things in your life are going to happen. And that's why, to a certain extent, the cards and the stars will tell you in that direction it's going. But the other thing then, Nicola, is what if you have started off on life and you should have stepped off with your left foot, but you stepped off with the right foot, and therefore the start of your experience of that incarnation was wrong, and it wasn't towards your destiny. And therefore someone pops up, or something pops up in your life and sort of says, we think you should be going that way, actually, mate. And you decide that you're going to make some changes and you're going to go off in that direction. You could say, well, that was always your destiny. All of those experiences up to that point, that was also part of your destiny, as was the direction you're going. I think the gut feeling, instinct and intuition helps us stay on the beaten track, helps us that straight and narrow, that elastic pulls us back. And I think there's a few Hollywood films that have had a go this. One of them's Final Destination. And I'm just because, Nicola, you talk about that gut feeling to avoid death or serious injury. In that Final Destination Hollywood film, it's quite an old film now, but a few of you hopefully would have seen it. I think it all starts with people about to be on an aircraft. And there's a number of people that have this feeling they've got to get off the aircraft. They do, and the aircraft doesn't make it, safely to its destination. And all of these people end up thinking, wow, we've avoided sort of certain death. But actually, the universe, throughout this sort of Hollywood film, tries to catch up with them and take them out sort of one at a time, because they were always meant to die in that sort of aircraft. Now, although it's a Hollywood film, I think that so much of our Hollywood and our sci-fi is based on a couple of seeds of possibility, particularly when they explore the art of the possible when it comes to some of these theories, strategies, and philosophies. You could say equally that if you weren't meant to be on that plane, Nicola, your gut feeling is like your guide saying, Ash, get off that plane. We can't be absolutely certain because of free will, but we watched the way that that plane was serviced. We don't think that plane's going to make it safely. You're not meant to die on it. And we know that a lot of those people on the plane are all meant to die today. This is all hypothetical, folks. You could argue that. You could argue that people that do this through dream interpretation, that pick it up on cards, all have these big elements of destiny, of things that are going to happen, and that your gut feeling, your instinct, your intuition, perhaps your principal guide, is either steering you towards it or steering you away from it. For those playing the drinking game of Ralph Steadman, it's a new game where I talk about one of my spiritual mentors. You can do your first shot. Mr. Ralph Steadman used to talk about the fact that right up until it didn't happen, he always had this feeling that 2012 was going to be end of planet Earth as we knew it. In fact, he'd felt so confident about it, he'd even put it in print in one of his books, and he described this sort of the natural end of the Earth that looked like some sort of Hollywood disastrous sort of apocalypse survival movie. And although he was absolutely wrong about that prediction in 2012, what he spoke about in there and the theory behind it, I think is still true to now. Is him having that prediction, he didn't know exactly, who was going to survive and who knew. What he did have from spirit was that you'd been exactly at the right place. And either you would travel at the last minute to avoid it, or you'd travel at the last minute to be right in the path of the tsunamis and the storms and the earthquakes. If you decided to all get together and celebrate a family celebration and that you all survived, that was also meant to be. Equally, if you all got together, it was because you had a soul contract as a family that you were all going to punch out together. It was going to be end of experience. And in about 2013, so a year after that prediction didn't come true, I used to have a laugh and a joke with Ralph about that. And again, it goes back to this element of destiny, of what will happen will happen. And if you sort of follow those feelings, you have those intuitions, those instincts, then ultimately you have to just accept the fact that you're going to be in the right place at the right time, because it's all meant to be. If you choose to ignore those feelings, and those feelings were coming from your guide that perhaps could see the bigger picture, then that is your free will. You take personal responsibility for your decisions. For every action, there's a cause and effect. And I think that in itself is also absolutely possible. It goes back to what Silver Birch was saying about destiny and free will existing at the same time. I also think it suggests that free will can interfere to a certain extent with destiny. One of the questions I'd put to Spirit Guide before is, first of all, and again, it's the bit that I struggle to understand with, why would someone come back to be a serial killer? What on earth are they trying to experience that they couldn't learn in other ways? Why do we need serial killers in at all? And apart from being told that these are perhaps lower elements of spirit world, these are things that aren't necessarily perfected souls. I'm also told that from perfection is not modeled on perfection. Perfection is modeled on imperfection. And perhaps some of these really bad people were just in existence. And they're going to do bad things, and they're going to be bad people with bad experiences while they continue to try and evolve. Equally, you could argue that someone chooses that experience. I find it hard to believe. I'm not saying it's wrong, because spirit tell me it is right. That's me refusing to surrender. So you've got this person that says, right, I'm going to choose this life. I'm going to be a serial killer. I'm going to kill all those people. And then they go and have a contract with everyone. Right, Fred and Jane, you're going to be on my hit list. And when we leave heaven, I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to kill you because I'm going to be a nasty sort of serial killer. And you think, all right, it'd be great. It'd be great for me to experience that. It'd be great for my family to experience that. And I think that's why in my tiny little human mind, I find it hard to believe, because I'm fantasizing almost in a way. I'm sort of dramatizing it with that sort of holiday flair, because it probably doesn't happen like that. And perhaps you choose a life of Fred Bloggs, who's going to be born as the carpenter and live a healthy, happy life and get married and 3 kids and live happily ever after. And then actually the serial killer, who is working and marching to the beat of their own drum, uses their free will to just totally interfere with your destiny and destroy it. And you arrive back in heaven and you go, hang on, that wasn't meant to happen. I had all these things I was planning to experience. You could argue, no, actually, there was a greater destiny at play. Equally, you could say, well, there was a lunatic here, and this lunatic did bad things. And that was also where I turned to Silver Birch, because Silver Birch talks to us about the imperfections of the human body. So I'm going to take some water. I'm going to read us one other thing. And before I do so, Claire said, "We are powerless to people, places, and things. We have to learn to control your feelings." That's very interesting, Claire. Thank you very much. So the next thing I just wanted to read from Silverbirch then was, if I can't find it, Reed, I'm just going to have to remember what you said to me. Right. Okay. So it goes back to experience, and it goes back to the serial killer mentality, or choosing a bad thing. So the question actually to Silverbirch at this time was about children. And they said to Silverbirch, "Is it fitting for children to be born into this pitiful world?" Silverbirch said, "As far as I see it, the answer is to be found in the human free will. I do not think that the word pitiful is a fair description of your world, though such a blackness covers many parts of it. The earth has its part to play in a universe of ordered creation. The earth is one of the steps in the ladder of life. It is one of the spheres of being through which every individual has to pass as part of the equipment, the training for the spirit. If the earth were not necessary, then the earth would not exist. The fact that it does exist is evidence of the part it plays in the divine evolutionary scheme." Now, I can't remember word for word because I've lost my bookmark for where else it's said, but there was a question about preconception and destiny, and Silverbirch spoke about the human body. He said, sometimes the human body, as much as it was meant to be, let's call it perfect. Perfect's the wrong word. Things go wrong. There are chemical imbalances, and there are things in the development of that body which just aren't right. And if you look up the sort of the criminal definition of psychopaths and other sort of types of really evil people, they often talk about physical and psychological things which are different in the makeup of those brains. People that don't show empathy and stuff like that. And Silverbirch said sometimes that wasn't part of destiny. That was just like the body not performing as it should have done. It's like buying the brand new BMW, driving it off the showroom, and thinking, "Hang on, this isn't performing within normal operation. Something's not quite right here." And Silverbirch used to talk about the fact that that physical condition becomes so overwhelming and so overpowering that the spirit, that the soul, who's been wiped of all previous knowledge of incarnation and contracts and anything else, becomes conditioned to the culture of the environment and end up going off in a totally sort of different direction. So yeah, I wanted to throw in those couple of alternative thoughts. Phil Shaw says, "I think material distractions, in terms of allowing free will to operate, are designed to strengthening our conviction and commitment to the chosen destiny, as Earth is a training ground for evolution." Yes, Phil, and you're not the first person to describe Earth as the training planet. There's a wonderful video on YouTube, folks, that has two telepathic children talking. And after watching the video, you realize that they're talking from that place that I would call heaven or the spirit world. And these two youngsters are talking about the fact that they can sort of see things unfolding on Earth right now. And one of the little girls is like, "Well, I'm going to go down there." And they're like, "Well, why on earth would you go down there? We live such a beautiful life up here." "I've got to go down there as my friends and family are down there. They're living through this. And I've got to go down there and help them. I've got to go and help invest in them. I've got to do some learning and development. I need to understand it for myself." And it's a wonderfully powerful video. It talks about this concept of Earth as the training planet. It talks about why perfected spirit beings would choose a third dimensional incarnation as a human being to come down. And although I get, as a medium, lots of lovely evidence of how great heaven is as a place to exist, we also get told that there are certain things in heaven that you just can't experience in the same way you do on earth. My granddad Rick, who very much enjoyed a pint of real ale at the perfect room temperature, is able to experience the sensation of drinking that real ale at the perfect temperature. My mum describes it as the heavenly arms, where he's in good company, when my nan's not pestering him to get home. And it's that June is saying Wales 9, France, French 10. No, Are you talking about the rugby by any chance, Jude? Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the update. I no need to watch the version I've recorded now, June. Thanks a lot. I'm joking. I've got 2 young kids, so the chances of me watching live sport game on playback these days is quite slim. I've totally lost track of that. Isn't it amazing how something like an odd-shaped ball can get me totally off road? That's all right. No, don't say so, Richard. It's mine. It's my defect of character. So just friends, it goes back to that point of like, so what? So what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to live through it. And I think that as spiritual people, as spiritualists, there was something actually that asked sort of Silverbirch in a group of spiritualists. One of them said, well, there's lots of spiritualist churches in London, Silverbirch. So do you think that most of the evolved souls will live in London? Because that's where most of the spiritual churches are. And he's like, hang on a minute. Just because you're a spiritualist and you go to a church in London doesn't make you an evolved soul. Spiritualists, again, although we're very supportive of what you do, it's a human-made religion and a way of living your life. And actually, being spiritual is more than about going to a spiritualist church. It's more about going to a spiritualist center. It's about living your life in a certain way. It's about understanding old knowledge as new knowledge and being confident with it. It's about potentially evolving as a soul through multiple incarnations and multiple experiences. There was another question that went to Silverbirch about mediums and mediums channeling people like Silverbirch. Are they evolved to do it? And he spoke about the fact that they're certainly more involved than people perhaps doing it as a human being for the first time, but not necessarily have they reached perfection. But again, he would constantly almost make apologies, Silverbirch, for the human mankind. He's like, this was not the perfect experience. We need everything and everyone to exist in the way it is for the Great Spirit to manifest and just because you are Great Spirit and the Great Spirit is you. We're all but one. He talks about God as the one, as the some particle of all of the energy of all of that sort of Great Spirit, and just about sort of accepting the fact that if you want to learn more, if you want to ask questions, we have some answers for you. If you want to invest in that time through spiritual awakening, we have some answers for you. If you want to listen to your guide, if you want to follow the pull of the elastic, then that elastic is taking you in the right direction. If you want to surrender yourself to the will of your guides and your spirit team, then no, we're here to help you. But otherwise, zip, our mouth is closed. We shall not influence you. And from the spirit world, we actually have very little power over the physical experience of what you're going through. It's down to you in your life, in your experience. You need to get up off your backside. You need to do the things that you think you need to do. You need to listen for that potential calling. You need to see those opportunities. And the final thing I'll sort of finish with before taking a few more questions is that if destiny was absolute and you could predict with real detail, then more mediums, and there are thousands of mediums now all over the globe, you'd be able to predict events in a small detail. Which horse is going to win that race tomorrow? Which lottery numbers are going to come up in the Grand Slam? Whether or not England are going to beat Ireland tomorrow? All of that detail would be so well known that more people would be able to pick up on it. I think it would be available. So when we talk about fortune telling as a spiritualist medium, we don't do it most of the time because we can't do it most of the time because your loved ones, when they come through and give evidence of life after life, don't know what's in the future. The future is in the future. The gift of the present is what they're commenting on right now. However, when we speak about heaven being higher, raised, and I always think of that as being a higher vibration, faster vibration. So let's call it a helicopter. So in the helicopter that is heaven, our spirit friends and guides can see the path we're on. Perhaps they're even aware of our guides and our guides are aware of them. They talk about perhaps contracts, soul contracts, agreements, destinies, bits of elastic pulling us in the direction. And I think if we ask them and we make space for the answers, they're able to say, because they can see the direction we're going in and whether or not they think that is a good thing or a bad thing based on their honest, humble opinion. And just to contextualize that in one simple journey, if my destiny is to be born in London and to die in New York, America, age 100, then Spirit will know, in the same way my guides will know, there is only so many ways you'll get Ashley Robinson born in London and over to New York. Even if we just look at the journey from London to New York, at some point, Ash Robinson's going to have to leave London. Does he go by boat? Does he go by plane? Does he swim? Does he walk? Does he hitchhike? All of those free will decisions for how to get to New York, as long as I'm getting there, as long as that elastic is still pulling me there, then Spirit perhaps able to comment on it. Once I'm aware of my desire to go to New York, Spirit can say, oh, great, he's got it. He is so close. He is picking up the breadcrumbs we have left for his pursuit. Well, now we need to encourage him. You can do it. Get on that boat. Oh, actually, don't get on that boat. Get on that plane. Don't get on that plane. Don't sit there. Don't eat those extra hot dogs, Ash. Do a bit more exercise. Eat a lot less food. All of those things in between, they're looking for the perfect conditions, knowing that I'm already well trained, equipped, and guided to fulfill my destiny, to get where I need to go. And regardless of anyone's free will that stand in my way, I am empowered to circumvent and adapt to anything which comes in my way. All of those things, absolutely possible. And therefore, when Spirit come through, they can come down and go, I'm quite excited about this path. I can see the way you're going from England to New York. It looks good to me. Keep doing it. Or Ash, you're faced in the wrong direction. You've developed this fear of flying. You're never going to get on that plane you need to get on to go to America. You're heading off to Australia by water. That doesn't feel like you're being pulled in the right direction. So I want you to go back and talk to Fred, or do more talking with Jane and less with Fred. Do those things which increase the likelihood of us seeing that you're going in that direction you're meant to be going. So, friends, that sort of brings us towards the end of the show and my talk on destiny. But we do have time for a few questions, and I'm really interested in your opinions. So, Julie Caswell says, what I keep reminding myself of is our human experience is a lifetime, but being a spirit is timeless. So, whatever your experiences are, they are blink of an eye in an eternity. Oh, that's deep, Julie, but yeah, absolutely. This human experience, as the people we're in right now, it's like a grain of sand on a beach or a desert. And only once we've finished with this experience will we perhaps start to understand how significant, but also insignificant we were at that time. As a spiritualist medium, when I get evidence of life after life, friends and family come through and they talk about the experience they just had. They give us evidence of the personality of the life they lived. And they're still very, very fond of the people they were fond of while they were alive. We know that the vast majority, sorry, folks, the vast majority of them will wait in that place I call heaven for us to come and join you. Certainly second, third, even fourth generations of family to be reunited in heaven. We know that in heaven, before conception, before incarnation, spirit mourn the loss of the spirit being as it becomes a human being, in the same way that we're delighted for the human being to be born at the point of conception to the point of birth, right through to the end of their life. But we go back to heaven. And I think it's at that point when we are not got the physical burden of the body we've had so much fun in and hopefully so many wonderful experiences, we can look at the bigger picture of all the other things that the soul has got up to. And my dad has woke up. I said woke up. I haven't been boring him, but I know he's not been well. Hey, Dad, and hi, Mum. Everyone is welcome to this show. Thanks a lot, Dad. There's my manager. You're all welcome. Jenny, yes, you can ask a question. So Jenny says, have you ever been taken to the spirit world or taken somewhere by spirit? Is that possible, please? And if so, can they show you places like houses, or there is no such thing? Jenny, I've had glimpses and I've had perceptions of the spirit world. And the spirit world, I believe, is a place of pure thought. So it's not a physical place I go to, but it is a place that exists within our thoughts. And through meditation, and attunement, you can find those places. So one of the shows we spoke about guides, we did a lovely little meditation, and Richard, our producer, produced all this wonderful video footage, which helps you sort of relax and chill out. And we went to this like ancient meeting circle with the stones around, and you sort of meet your guides and your gatekeeper and things like that. And through meditation, regular meditation, through being part of a circle, a development circle, and being able to go to that place, you can start to find out more about heaven. You can start to interrogate your loved ones and your guides about what it is. And, you know, for people like my nan, when she died, there was a house. She had a little cottage by the sea, with no bills to pay, so she could have the heating on for as long as she wanted, until my granddad got too hot and probably opened some windows. But they had the little cottage by the sea. That was what they needed heaven to be. That was what heaven was for them. But they have no physical body. They have no physical house. It's a place of pure thought, a place of pure and immediate thought. So if you're not already in a circle, Jenny, do reach out to your local spiritualist church or centre. Check out Spiritual Psychic TV and have a look at the directory. And if you can't remember Spiritual Psychic TV, remember sptv.uk and head over to the main page. You'll find a spiritual directory that can connect you to other spiritual people, ambassadors, teachers, circle leaders, and things like that. Marion Frisbee says, we are all fashioned by our life on earth. Who we are to say what is good or bad reference our experiences. Do we not help one another by all our actions? Yeah, true, Marion, I like that. Offering both good and bad as we see it. Maybe life here is to show us everything that is not love and what is love and the consequences, as is for that reason. Refinement. All very nice, Marion. There's some deep thoughts there. Thank you for sharing that with us. We know that unconditional love is incredibly powerful. We know that as spiritualists, so many of us do service as a result of unconditional love. Why do mediums drink all the time when reading? I don't know. Do they? I do, and it's a practical reason. I get a sore throat. So most mediums and churches will have some water behind the platform, and just because you're speaking is a physical thing, you need to hydrate. Keep your fluids well hydrated. For those that know a lot about chakras, you talk about the different chakras in the mind. There's another one around the throat, and lots of mediums that work, psychic mediums often use a lot of the head chakra. As a spiritualist medium, I certainly work a lot through my throat chakra, and I think there's an energy thing there. I get very hot and warm even when I'm doing this show, working through those chakras. And just about staying hydrated, and that instinct, you know, spirit want us to look after ourselves and look after our bodies. Lillian Beasley says, how long does it take for you to get to cross over? Can you come through straight away? Yeah, absolutely, Lillian. I've had people come through within seconds, minutes, hours of passing the. I've had direct evidence of that. Of my wife's friend communicating in about 45 seconds of being effectively. As he described it, a corpse in his living room. He was a spirit being in my house within seconds. So yeah, absolutely possible. Other times, depending on people's understanding, their belief, their cultural system, or psychologically what was going on in their life, they go to a place of rest and recuperation, almost like a spa in heaven, and they might take a little bit longer to communicate. Equally, they might decide not to. One of my dear friends at Fernie, was like a surrogate nan to me, always said she wouldn't communicate once she got there. She'd go off and find the halls of learning and chill out with a good book or several good books. And to her credit, she never has come through and communicate. So I think it's a personal choice from the spirit world. But yeah, it's absolutely possible. It's just not guaranteed. Very few mediums will claim to be a DJ, Lillian, when they can take requests and bring in a particular loved one. But you know, they're all there. And the vast majority of them go to that place I call heaven almost immediately. Some take a little bit longer as they kind of wander through more of a corridor, more of a limbo. And that might be because that they thought that heaven didn't exist. They thought there would be nothing. And therefore, perhaps psychologically, they've created a sense of nothingness while they learn and discover there is a heaven. Thanks, Lillian. Good question. Hi, Ashley. How can I determine my life purpose? Good question. You have to ask. Oh, my internet's apparently playing up, folks. I'm sorry if you're having any bandwidth. This either suggests that my kids are still awake and I'm streaming, you know, Netflix and YouTube in another room, or something else going on. But Jeanette, It's about asking those questions. There are spiritual teachers that claim to be able to help you fulfill a bit more of your destiny, and different psychics. I don't know how many we might have on SPTV, Richard, but certainly through even things I was learning about palmistry, and runes and stuff. The lovely Sam O'Neill, learning about how she reads your palm. There's so much of your destiny within your palms. But check out the SPTV directory, Jeanette, and you've got little bios and scripts there about all the different people in the team. Ultimately, I think it's a personal journey, and you do this through attunement with your guides, and it's about listening to that principal guide that's guiding you from the start of your conception right through to your end of experience, and the different guides that would come in and work with you through different things in your life and through different experiences. And a lot of that starts with meditation, and it starts by finding a circle and a circle leader. So again, head over to SPTV UK, the spiritual directory, find a local spiritual church or centre, find a local circle leader, start doing some of that stuff. Check out on Richard's playlist some of the meditations. We have great meditations with Resland, Leslie Moulton every other Friday, and get into that sort of discipline of meditation, of meeting your guides and asking them those questions. Shavonna Rook, if you only concentrated on 2 or 3 chakras, would you be at a disadvantage trying to connect with spirit? Siobhan, I'm going to be quite controversial here and say no. I don't think you would be a disadvantage. I think the chakras are really important. I am a layman when it comes to chakras. I don't claim to be a subject matter expert on them at all. I am aware of them. I'm aware how they function. And what I said to Spirit when I was starting to develop is that I needed a fast track. I was terrible at meditating, terrible at finding that concentration and that discipline of working my way through the chakras. And I asked that my guide team found a way for me to do it sort of quicker in real simple, plain English. So, yeah, I can't even tell you the proper names of them, can I, on a show like tonight? I'm loosely aware of they are under body. People like my mum are very knowledgeable on this, and she's brought me many sort of key rings and pictures over the years to try and help me remember the colours and the names and other bits and pieces. The lovely Leslie Moulton there, when she teaches spiritual healing with United Spirit, she talks about the chakras and how they're healing them. So there's an awful lot of work you can do on this, and I think when you really are aware, it can definitely help, but it won't hold you back. Just surrendering yourself and standing in the love and the light and standing for truth. Spirits will work with absolutely all of us. They are not fussy. They will give us everything we need in order to do that. Thank you, Siobhan. Last 2 questions, folks, and then we'll do a couple of adverts, and I shall bid you farewell. Medium. I was taught as a medium to work with chakras, and it's been so helpful as a guide. So there we go. There's another person volunteering to help Siobhan. Phil, if you're not already registered, get on the SPTV directory, register yourself, and stick that in your blurb. As well as the spiritual directory, folks, there is the spiritual awards. So you can nominate your favorite mediums, you can nominate your favorite show hosts, and there is going to be this amazing ceremony, this virtual ceremony, where we all get to vote for each other that have been doing service on this channel. So do head over to SPTV UK after the show. Check out the directory, check out the awards. Jenny says she had an experience. My partner took me somewhere, I don't know where. I just had a knowing and feeling of him and others and also buildings. I couldn't see them. I just had a knowing of it all being there. Did he put that on me and I could speak to him and spoke back to him from mind? Jenny, I mean, it sounds like an amazing experience. Thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, if heaven's a place of pure thought, it sounds like you've had a glimpse and an introduction there. Lovely. Thank you, Jenny. Okay. Folks, it's been a wonderful show. I'm now going to tell you about a few of the other things happening on the show. So I know a few of you are looking for mediumship tonight. Well, do come back this time tomorrow from 8 p.m. We've got a demonstration of mediumship live across Facebook and YouTube. Live free readings tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Con Davidson will be your medium. Ah, yes, June the 11th, folks. It's going to be a fantastic day, which will have a fantastic finish. So during the day, there is the Spiritual Holistic Fair I'll be there from Women of Spiritualist Church with a few things from our church stall. I'll be doing some spiritual counselling. People will be doing mediums during the day, lots of things to buy. It's going to be a great day out on the South Coast, folks. And then what a fantastic way of finishing off that evening. So from 6:30 p.m. and free parking, you're going to have this amazing evening of mediumship. Now, Polly Harnett and Bill Hughes opened up our Friday night spiritual weekend, Spirit Seeker at the weekend. It was an absolutely brilliant way to start the day. We had some wonderful evidence of life after death, and you've got two great people there that not only work so amazingly well with those gifts. Say two, there's four. Matt and Kirsty, lovely Matt and Kirsty Grogan, who sadly couldn't be with us over the weekend for poor health, but looking likely. So send them your love and light and healing. Four wonderful human beings. Great evidence of life after death. It's going to be a great evening. So join us on June the 11th for that. And sadly, in other news of poor health, Polly Harnett's unable to do the show on Sunday night. But do watch this platform on Facebook and YouTube, and do watch out on SPTV UK. There's a wonderful schedule on there, folks. So before planning your social lives, do check what's on the schedule, see what you might be missing before you go out and see real human beings when you can see us online. Jane says, thank you for this tonight. Jane, you are very welcome. And folks, as we come to closing, let's think about all that lovely energy built up tonight by having a chat, and think about what positive love, light, laughter, spiritual healing we can send out. Christine says, boys, any girls, I had apple and raspberry crumble, then the other day it was yummy. So Christine gives us this lovely thoughts of apple and raspberry crumble. We've got a good way of sending out other positive thoughts. I really fancy some crumble now. Richard and I certainly enjoyed some custard with our crumble over the weekend. More custard the better. And let's hope that people out there serving custard see the advantage and the opportunities of keeping spiritual minded people connected through custard. Jim says, another great show, very interesting, really enjoyed it. Jim, you're very well. So we got that love, we got that light, we got that healing. And if you put your hands together to pray, if you create the symbol, we're going to do a whole show dedicated to the symbol, folks. Just think about that positivity, thinking about that energy, think about anyone that might need it. And we say, unconditionally to the universe, take my love, know that I work within the light, I stand for truth, and whoever needs that comfort, give them that comfort, help them from any physical sufferings, help them return to their loved ones should they so desire. Amen. Thank you very much, folks. We send that love light out to you and to the world, and thank you all for your lovely feedback. It's been a great show. Good night. God bless.